Hello, today we are in Leiria's region and we're gonna explore around the place and search for at least one castle, one church, one beach and one green place natural thingy. Let's go! We are in Pataias Lagoon. It's just a few kilometers away from the sea, and here the region is very dry, so this lagoon creates a very green area that is different from everything around here because of the humidity, of course. So there's a lot of amphibians, turtles. It's kind of a small paradise for ducks, as you can hear. So I think this qualifies maybe as a green natural park thingy. Let's check it. We have beach just over there, and here we have lake. This lake has a problem of oxygen. Well, not a problem, it's a situation. It doesn't have that much oxygen because it has a lot of alcohol and microorganisms. So that creates this weird foam when you have too many organisms usually in the water. It's not like pollution, it's natural, it's not chemical. But it's a decaying matter from the water. And the water is also quite hot because it's not very deep, the lake, and with the sun the water is actually very pleasant, it's very warm, but it's not very healthy, let's say. So if you see this foam somewhere in Portugal, sometimes happens in the sea even, it means that there's a lot of decaying organisms and probably lack of oxygen in the water. It's not chemical. Oh, ducks, they're so cute. Do you see them? This is like duck paradise. There's probably not that many predators, and they can create young. For no reason whatsoever, if you come to Portugal, you should try a very nice Portuguese dish. Rice, duck rice. Very good. Leiria was taken by the first king of Portugal to the Arab Caliphate in 1135, and Dom Afonso Henriques, the first king of Portugal, ordered a fortification to be built here because Leiria at the time was an important city because there was a lot of farming and food goods that were produced here and traded here. Ironically, after he left to go fight with our brothers and neighbors in Galicia, the Caliphate took the opportunity, of course, and came back and reconquered this in 1137. Then the Portuguese army came back down, it retook it, and then they went off again to fight again, and the Caliphate took it again. And then the Portuguese army finally came back and took it definitely. So this was conquered 3 times in a very small span, like 10 years or so. And the castle itself started to be built. Then the son of the first king ordered the walls to be built and became more like a traditional castle. But also, as the Portuguese border moved more down and down and down, the castle also lost a bit of its strategic role as a defensive fortress. There was, in the middle of the 13th century, another important military episode with this castle, where 2 brothers, the one in Coimbra and another one here, were fighting each other. So this castle actually was on the side of the youngest brother, the one that became king, and it was put under siege from the Coimbra's troops of the older brother for a while. Then when the army came here, they liberated the siege, let's say, of course, because they won, so the people who win are always the liberators. And after that it never became again a military garrison, so it became more like a palace castle. Over time it started to be neglected and lost its interest, and during the reconquering, what we call reconquering, basically we expelled some monarchs in Portugal, expelled some monarchs in 1640. The castle was already quite neglected at the time. In the end of the 19th century, the local population wanted a lot to recreate the castle, and they were successful in the beginning of the 20th century. And from the beginning of the 20th century, 100 years ago until now, the castle is always a loved place with a lot of care and always some small reconstructions, which is great because now we have a very nice, beautiful medieval castle that we can visit and we can put on YouTube. This tower was built in 1324, and like many towers of this style built in the late medieval period, is more to show the power of the lord, the persons that are in this castle, than properly a defensive structure, so it's more like a palace. We are in the palace that was built in the 14th century. So this is the famous balcony side, and from here the king could see the city of Leiria. The oldest parts in Leiria are in this region, as you can see. You have the Sé, which is the central main church here. We're probably gonna see it in a bit. Then you have another church here, and the center of Leiria is considered this square, right here. This beautiful white church was built in the beginning of the 15th century. It's late Gothic style, as you can see, and it's the last building that was built in the castle that was now a palace by the ground up. So this is the last thing that was built here. With this, we finish our trip to the Leiria castle, one of the most important castles in the region. So let's go search for a church. So, as you can see by the car, there's a wedding happening right now in the church, so we cannot go in right now. But I'm gonna wait for a bit and let's see if we can take a peek inside. This Sé is actually not that old. Usually Sé is like the mother church of a region or of a city, and it's where the bishop is. And it's very important historically because in the Middle Ages and so on, most people didn't know how to read and write, and in the Sé all the Brits knew how to read and write, so the history and the events and so on were all written and put into the Sé of the buildings. So to recreate history, it's very important that you look for the Sé to know what happened in a place. How many people died, when they died, how many people were born, the droughts, the wars, and so on and so on. One of the notable things about this Sé is that it doesn't have a clock tower, which was very unusual at the time. So we're not gonna go inside of the church because there's no time. But we learned an important lesson, which is Saturday is a terrible day to be doing things and walking around and filming, because everyone is out and there's weddings and there's kids everywhere. So lesson learned. So now let's head back to Rebecca, go a tiny little lunch, and then go search for the last piece of our amazing video, a beach. Let's go. Here we are at the coast. It's very windy, which sucks us for audio quality, of course. And this is Praia do Moel. It's quite fancy beach here. This place is quite noble already for many centuries, because in the 15th century this was given to a count as a gift, the old beach of São Pedro do Moel. And the count made this their residence for themselves and the whole family, of course, and throughout the generations this stayed their permanent residence for about 200 years. In the restoration of the independence of Portugal, when Portugal got separated from the Habsburg Empire, many people got killed, of course, like any revolution of the time, and the count and his family, they were on the wrong side, they were on the losing side, so many of the family got killed. So this lighthouse you see over here, it's in a rock called Penedo da Saudade, which means something like rock of missing, of rock of longing. It's a bit hard to translate saudade, it's a Portuguese word. It's called like that because they say the widow of the last count used to come to this rock to grieve. So it's her mourning place for the family she lost. here we are in the beautiful, fancy, expensive and very cute beach of São Pedro do Moel. It's quite a popular place, but it's quite small as well, so now there's COVID, so there's not that many people, but usually this might not be the place you want to go to make a beach day, a normal beach day, if you come to the region. But it's probably a place where you want to come to see, take some pictures, and spend maybe an afternoon chilling, having beer and some snails. It's very pretty. We saw a castle, a church more or less, a beach and a green natural park thingy. You know what that means? Yes, unfortunately the video is over. So I'm gonna keep heading down south to Lisbon, more or less 120 kilometers. If I see something cool I might stop, but our adventure ends here. And stay healthy, stay happy, and see you in the next adventure. Ciao!
Agora sei que o irmão já não foi com o irmão, foi chamado de urgência para ir para o trabalho.